This is the Defenders podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back with Agatha All Along, episode 2, Circle Sewn with Fate, Unlock Thy Hidden Gate.
Road is no place for a kid.
I'm 16.
Oh, sorry. Teen. I don't know where you heard about the road.
Books, the ballad, legend, lore.
But it will kill you.
Didn't kill you.
Well, I'm exceptional.
That's my point. Okay, so confession, I know an egregious amount about you. I've been obsessed since I first showed up on your Salem days. One of my favorite you eras.
It's a good one.
It's why I came here last night. It's why I saved you from the spell you were under. No, it was my pleasure.
Well, if you've got the goods to break a spell cast by the Scarlet Witch, why do you need the road?
Welcome back, witches and fellow defenders, to the Defenders podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back for our second episode of Agatha All Along with Circle Sewn with Fate, Unlock Thy Hidden Gate. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow defenders, and yes, welcome back again, witches. I am one of your other hosts, John. Good to have you back.
Absolutely. In between when we recorded the first episode and the second episode, John, Marvel Entertainment just posted a photo of a moon, and if you increase the brightness of it, it confirmed the title for episode 1 and episode 2, and we were right. We got the titles right. So we don't have to change anything, thankfully.
Excellent. Excellent stuff.
Yeah, they have been so good about promoting this show. The posters that they put out for
really good.
Yeah, with all the cast in different situations, different TV shows, was really cool. And this was a lovely reveal, the moon revealing the name of the first 2 episodes. Loved it.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get on with our spoiler-filled discussion of episode 2, Circle Sewn with Fate, Unlock Thy Hidden Gate. Before we do, though, after that little bit of poetry, just remember, fellow defenders, to pop on over to our website where you can subscribe to the podcast over at tvpodcastindustries.com. You can either leave a voicemail or subscribe on any Wiccan or Android-loving podcast player of your choice. We also love to get feedback on the shows we cover from our listeners. So please, if you have any thoughts, theories, observations, or anything else, please send your emails to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com or head on over to our Facebook group over at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, where we will leave spoiler posts for every episode of Agatha All Along over there, and you can provide your feedback there as well.
Absolutely. How are you enjoying the show? I hope you're liking it as much as we are. I have got a song stuck in my head since we watched this episode over and over, or should I say, down again. Down
so does Mrs. Hart.
Yes, she does. We will talk all about it in this episode. Hope you've watched the second episode of Agatha All Along as well. Been really good fun. Just a reminder, we are, of course, doing our Coven Cauldron quiz for Agatha All Along, where you get a chance to get some Agatha Harkness goodies. There will be a second question later on in the episode, and gather all the correct answers together at the end of the season and email them into us to that email address, and you could get your hands on some Agatha Harkness goodies.
Yes, indeed. Good luck, fellow quizzers and fellow defenders, if you're taking part in our Cauldron quiz. But let us get on with episode 2. Derek, what are some of the episode details?
Well, showrunner for the show, of course, is Jack Schaefer, who is also the showrunner on WandaVision. This episode was written by Laura Donnie, who wrote the penultimate episode of WandaVision as well. So another writer sticking on board for the second season of WandaVision, as we're definitely going to be calling it. This episode, again, was directed by showrunner Jack Schaefer. John, do you want to give us the synopsis for the second episode of Agatha All Along?
Sure. Agatha interrogates the teenager that she trapped in her house. He wants her guidance to travel the Witch's Road, a mythical place where a witch can gain great power if they reach the end. But every time Agatha tries to get information from the teenager, the world goes silent around her. She tentatively agrees to travel the road with the teen, but needs a coven to begin the trip. Watched all the way by various creatures, they travel together, encouraging Lilia, a psychic, Jennifer, a potions master, and Alice, a blood witch, to join them. To complete the circle, they need a green witch, so Agatha enlists the help of her green-fingered neighbour, Mrs. Hart. Together, the new coven sings an ancient spell to open the gateway to the Witch's Road. The Salem Seven bearing down on her home, Agatha and her new coven climb the steep entry steps to head down the road.
As I said, yep, that song has just been stuck in my head. You know, with that coupled with our coverage of Rings of Power, where we just had Tom Bombadil's song stuck in our head for about 2 weeks as well. Yeah, I think I'm pushing all popular music out of my head into and just filling it up with these brand new songs that are coming in from all of the shows we're covering, John.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I loved the whole recanting of the song,
the ballads,
and the ballads, to get or to at least to attempt to open the entrance to the Witch's Road. But I mean, I just loved them deciding who was going to be doing the high notes, who were doing the low notes, who was flat, who was pitchy. I just thought it was really, really good.
Really good. Well, we have this cast with someone like Catherine Hahn, who's got a great voice and obviously had basically had a #1 single with Agatha all along, and you surround her with someone like Patti LuPone, who's a well-known stage singer. You know, you got to have songs in there. I was expecting more. I'm hoping we're going to get even more songs as the series goes on. But I love the idea that this is a spell cast in song through the ballad at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
really cool.
Absolutely.
But we're going to talk about our top spells from the episode, our top moments. We're just calling them spells because, of course, it's Agatha all along. Let's start out with our spell number 1, the unnamed teen. I know we talked about the teen last episode. It's just because Joe Locke is such a central character in the show and we still don't have his name. And there's little touches in here that we're trying to understand who the character is and why he's so important in this story for Agatha. You know, we start out the episode where she sees him still trapped and directly taking off from episode 1. I'm glad the 2 episodes released back to back on Disney Plus. You know, we have him effectively taking off his own covering on his mouth to tell Agatha why he's so important, that he wants to travel the Witch's Road, and that's why he's been here, that's why he's been following her, that's why he's been learning all about her, because she's the one that could guide him onto the Witch's Road.
But that's it. I mean, I think with the unnamed teen here, there's a few little breadcrumbs here which are really done. I mean, firstly, just the fact that, you know, from episode 1, Agatha, or Agnes, the detective, had interviewed him, had no details on him. He wasn't in the police system.
Yeah.
She wasn't in her system. Okay, that was an illusion, effectively.
Yeah.
But now, you know, she's calling him Random Boy. But, you know, the teen here is saying, well, power is what both of us are missing.
Yes.
Which is really interesting. So he's almost coming off as a witch enthusiast, you know, a goth boy witch enthusiast, wants to be kind of at the, dare I say it, the Disney theme park version of witches and wizards and so on.
Right.
But these breadcrumbs in that, you know, first of all, he knows about this legend, this lore of the Witch's Road. The fact that he knows that it gives you the thing you want the most, assuming that you make it to the end. And so uses that to play and buy his time, his moment with Agatha, because Agatha was about to just say, well, the Salem 7 will be here by the evening, so good luck with that. I'm off. I'm on the run, effectively.
But considering property prices around the world, including in the US, she was about to give him her house as well.
Well, that's true.
It's pretty impressive.
But it's interesting, this little crumb of power is what both of us are missing. So assuming he gets to the end of the road, what is the power that he's going to get? Or is it just that he wants to be a witch, a spell? Is this a red herring whereby it's a power he knows he should have if he does this, or a power that he's thinking he's just going to become, he wants to become a witch?
Or is it like Agatha and he's someone that's lost his power?
Maybe, yes.
Power that he used to have, we talk about the theory. Let's not hold it back. I'm sure this is the theory that's going to be going everywhere. It has been ever since Joe Locke was cast in the role. The theory is that this is Billy, one of the children of Wanda Maximoff from season 1 of WandaVision. Partly because Joe Locke is a gay actor and he was in Heartstopper, and the character of Billy is a gay character in the comics and always has been. So partly this is the reason why people think that this could possibly be Billy.
Yeah, absolutely. Also known as Wiccan in terms of his powered up form.
In the comics, yeah. So we have seen Billy being a super-powered character in the first season of the show. Could this be an older version of him? In the comics, Billy did disappear and came back, arriving back with powers as Wiccan. So potentially this is the way they're going to go for the second season.
And briefly as well, we do see that he has a boyfriend who tries to call him. He just kind of cancels the call.
Yeah.
But, is that ultimately the Hulkling that might be coming into play here, which is Wiccan's boyfriend in the comics?
It could be, yeah. Teddy is his other name, yeah.
So interesting speculation and theories here, but certainly one I'm looking to see how it plays out, to be honest.
Absolutely.
So I'll be on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to finding out this. It's funny, again, another show that we're covering is Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, and there are two major characters in that show where they keep hiding the name of the character throughout it, the Stranger and the Dark Wizard, who've gone episode after episode of not having their name revealed. And here we are in another show, this time in the Marvel Universe, where they're hiding the name of the character. But this one's really specific. As Agatha talks to the teen, there's like an obscuring spell that goes over his mouth where it's like it's being tied up with rope as he's trying to say his name to her, and he smiles away after saying his name, and Agatha's looking at him going, I didn't hear that. What was that again?
Yeah, no, I love this when she asks who the teen is, and she doesn't get his name at all, as you say, because of this kind of, it's almost like a stitching goes across the mouth, so that his actual name cannot be said to her. It's hidden, as it's almost like there's a shroud around her with respect to really intimate personal details of this teen. And it happens again in the car, not in terms of his name, but she says, "Where are you from?"
Yeah.
And starts off, and I love how it all becomes muffled and inaudible for her, but she turns up the radio and that comes through clear as day.
Yeah.
Showing her hearing hasn't gone, but in everything related to sort of those close details and personal information of the teen, Agatha is being withheld that information.
Yes.
There is a shroud over him in that sense, or over her from hearing it, or a spell shroud of some description. So really, really cool.
Yeah.
I loved how this played out, and it's really nice bit of intrigue, which connects him with that kind of theory ultimately.
Exactly.
Of him being Billy/Wiccan.
Yeah. And the only other piece of information we get from him in that conversation is that he says he's from Eastview. So in WandaVision season 1, there was Westview, which was the town controlled effectively and created by Wanda, and then Eastview was the other town a little bit over. I think we saw Jimmy Woo and Darcy over at Eastview before they entered Westview effectively. So he says he's from Westview, he was born and brought up over there. Is that a lie? Is that part of the spell that's covering up who he really is? I have a theory right now that maybe Wanda Maximoff had found a way to bring back her children just as she died, and that part of that spell was to obscure them from the outside world. Yet these two characters are attracted to each other, Billy and Agatha Harkness, that the two of them have found a way back towards each other because of their connection in the town. So I wonder if it's something like that.
From episode 1, the teen knows more about Agatha than she knows about him.
Exactly.
He has sought her out, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So at the moment, that kind of relationship is skewed in that the teen knows the rationale for going to Agnes. Okay, it's being called out as him wanting to travel the Witch's Road with Agnes.
Yeah.
But is that the only reason, given that there is power at the end of that road and Agatha has no other information about this companion?
Exactly. So a really interesting idea. One last thing I want to say, as you mentioned, John, if this is Billy, the boyfriend could be Teddy, aka Hulkling. I've already seen loads of people confuse the character of Hulkling with the character we saw at the end of She-Hulk. That character was called Scar, the son of Hulk.
Yeah.
He looks very different to Hulkling in the comic books. I understand the confusion if you haven't read the comic books or if you don't know the characters, but there have been loads of people, so you'll probably see lots of posts going up over the next couple of days from people going, that's the character, or showing pictures of the character from She-Hulk, not the same character, very different character. So this is Teddy, potentially, who makes that phone call. But we'll see, again, as the series goes on, we'll see, hopefully, the reveal of who the unnamed teen is, because it would be really surprising if we don't get a character name. IMDb doesn't have a character name at the moment, so he's still just showing as a major character, and, of course, the show itself doesn't have him as a named character in the credits even at the moment, so I'm sure that will come out over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's probably enough on the unnamed teen for our spell number one. Let's move on to our other characters in the show. We're going to give them all their own spells, they're all their own points, because
absolutely,
we're off on the journey now. We need to find the coven, which is the key to getting on the witch's road. This is what they learned together, Agatha and the teen. So we're going to go through our major other characters that are appearing in the show. Let's start our spell number 2 with Lilia Calderu.
Yes, the divination witch. Firstly, Patti LuPone, absolutely love. You will know her from our coverage of Penny Dreadful.
You might, yeah. Hopefully
you might if you've listened to those. But yes, she was in Penny Dreadful.
She was.
That we covered. Yeah. I think huge Broadway kind of presence, which I think for anyone not in the US, you wouldn't necessarily understand. It would be like a theatre actor gaining prominence sort of on TV nationally. So yes, very well known, but certainly she's massive presence on Broadway and in film and TV as well.
Yeah, she's like the Judi Dench of.
She is really,
of the US. She's fantastic. Everything that we've seen her in, as John said, we covered every episode of Penny Dreadful and the sequel show. She was in both of those. She was fantastic in those. But she's been in so many projects. A woman with such a presence and a great voice, of course, as well. Yeah. Well known for her performances on Broadway. So delighted to have her on here, but playing this really interesting character of the psychic who's pretending not to be psychic, but to be psychic. So a witch who can absolutely read your future, but if she does that, she'll be driven out of town by it because she's telling the actual truth of what she's seeing through her visions. So she pretends to be a psychic. I love how Agatha and the teen come in to talk to her and try and get her to use her powers. And so, Agatha's really just trying to test her to see if she does have any powers at all. And then we have Lilia sitting in front of her going, oh, and Agatha.
There's so much I loved about
Agatha's
this.
reaction, just going, oh, who is this person?
Yeah, there's so much I loved about this. Whether it was Agatha and the cover story of Beaufort and the BS, ultimately, of her husband and the bars of gold somewhere on a property, the husband dying on the 18th hole, all the kind of usual stuff and so on. I love that.
It's in his bowling bag in the back of the wardrobe.
Absolutely.
Sure.
But equally with Lilia's kind of pretend sort of trying to like connect in to do the psychic reading, really good, and all just fantastic. I like how it kind of moves from actually quite light-hearted comedic to then Lilia turning around saying, I have another reading, and just gives it straight, you know, despite Beaufort and Agatha's BS. I love that she comes back and says, well, I read your reputation. She knows who she is. She knows what she does, you know, and I love the fact that she said, why would I want to be in Agatha Harkness's coven? You know, if we're successful, you will just turn around and steal my power like you did with all the others years ago, and just confirming Agatha's kind of reputation comes before her, and it is that she will bleed you dry of your magical power to become ever more powerful. And, she makes it quite clear she's not interested in one way. But I do like what Agatha is trying to say, don't you seek the glory of the old days? And she goes, that's where I went from town to town and was generally driven out. Her view is that at the moment, getting 2 or 3 people popping in for 20 bucks a time, that's fine. She's not being harassed. She's not being driven out of town every 5 minutes. But ultimately here, Agatha is going to be collecting witches that actually need to be involved for some other reason. So in this case, we have that Lilia has an eviction notice on this property. And so, yes, she's not interested. No, she doesn't want to do it, but she is a desperate witch that, in a sense, this may be the last opportunity for her to rectify her current situation, which is, in this case, an eviction notice. So I kind of like how this all shifted. It was great. I love these scenes.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And I suppose the big thing that Lily is saying to Agatha is, it was people like you that convinced the world that witches ate babies, that they went through and killed other people, and
poisoned apples.
Poisoned apples, exactly. And Agatha's response to it was, babies do taste quite good, which I really like. But Agatha has a big reveal with her, telling her that her actual power is not that she goes around stealing other witches' power. It's that if another witch attacks her, then she's able to steal their power. So if Lily is able to keep her powers in check and not attack Agatha for their journey together, she's going to be able to keep the power that they get at the end of the Witch's Road. So that's the trade-off that they make. Not only will she be able to be granted great power at the end of it, Agatha won't be able to take that power away unless Lilia attacks her. So that's quite an interesting little touch there. So will Lilia be able to resist attacking her towards the end of the season? But there's another little interesting touch about Lilia as well. So we mentioned that she's a real psychic. She has the ability to see the future, but we see it in these really unusual ways where she almost gets possessed for a second. A couple of times.
I love that Agatha says, you're a bit kooky. I know every witch has their process. It's really good. Yeah, but it kind of just takes you out of it, and it's really good. It's like she's getting possessed, or she's being interrupted by the souls that she can commune with in order to get that psychic reading. And that was really nicely done. And we see her kind of, almost sort of getting possessed and writing down the names of 3 pentacles, and you have the teen coming out. Well, we got a witch. She was actually a witch. And we got a roll list of the other witches that we need to get, as she writes down the names that Agnes will be going for, effectively.
Including her own name.
Yeah, so
and she's surprised by that as well. So again, it's to do with her being possessed to write the list. So Lilia writes her own name at the top of the list and then writes the name of the other witches.
Who has gone through her to get those names down on paper? Because as we'll see later, it plays out a little differently for one of the witches, which is the Green Witch that she needs to bring along, and it apparently is critical for witches traveling the Witch's Road.
Well, exactly.
So really interesting. But I loved these scenes. I thought Patti LuPone and Catherine Hahn here are just so good.
They're great together. They're great together.
Loved them.
Really enjoyed that. That's the first of our 3 witches for the episode. Let's go on to our spell number 3 with the second of the witches, Jennifer Kale, the Potions Master. Really like this as well, because we've got a witch living and working in society, using her abilities to sell, what do they say, ice to the Eskimos? Is that kind of it? Or sand to the...
Sand to the... Yeah, exactly. Ice to the Eskimos, sand to the Arabs. Yeah. And I like Agnes saying the sisterhood of the traveling Kegel.
Yes, that was good.
Really good. But here, Jennifer has been magically bound, so she's not able to use her magic. But again, Jennifer recognizes Agatha, also realizes that Agatha's lost the Darkhold and is now vulnerable and exposed.
Yes.
But she's in a position where she's kind of putting that brave face on. She's like saying, well, I'm happy to see, the back of the warty, toothless community that are witches.
Yeah.
But again, here it's the teen says that might be so, but, she has legal battles that she has to fight because of her wonderful range of products.
Yeah, the teen becomes pretty important here. Agatha was about to walk away without having Jennifer Kale sign on the dotted line, really, to join this coven. He's the one that knows her from Instagram. He's been following her. He knows what's happening. He also knows about the legal battles. He knows that there were some superficial burns caused by one of her failed business ventures. And he's kind of going, yeah, if there were just some superficial burns on one person, that's bad enough. Maybe 5 years in prison. But there's 800 people claiming that she caused these superficial burns.
Absolutely.
On them. Yeah.
But it's also the fact that she's with some customers at the start as well. So you see the types of products that she's got. And it's this idea that there are probiotic candles that you eat when you blow them out.
I guess they're made from yogurt and lit, and then you can taste them at the same time.
I would say that is pure snake oil stuff.
I really like the way she said you can eat them. No, you have to eat them. That's FDA regulations require that you light the candle first, and then you can eat the probiotic candle. You can't eat it without lighting it. That's the requirement. But yes, Jennifer is aware of who Agatha Harkness is. She knows exactly who she is. She spent time with her in the past. She knows her not just by reputation. She has been around her because she says, I haven't seen you since the time I decided that I didn't want to see you anymore. I wanted to spend as much time away from you as possible. So she is aware of her. But again, the teen's twist is the reason why he gets her on board and gives her the details of where she needs to go to. I like Jennifer Kale, though. I like the power that's behind her, and I like that she's someone that Agatha is already acquainted with, and she doesn't want to deal with Agatha, again, not because of the reputation, but because of the dealings that she's had with her before. She knows Agatha is very likely to turn on her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They know her reputation for sure and are wary of her, but are all equally kind of desperate, as we were saying, in their own different ways in order to get some kind of resolution. I mean, in the sense with Jennifer Kale, she's magically bound, but it has felt ostracized, distant from the witch community.
Yeah. But now, not only are you magically bound, you're also going to be legally bound as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we have another member added to the coven with Jennifer Kale.
Yeah.
I think we should go on to our spell number 4 and to our third member of the coven as we get to Alice Wu Gulliver, who is a blood witch or protection witch. So interestingly here, she is a child born of a witch.
Yes, that makes her the blood witch. That's right.
Yes.
But she has the powers of a protection witch as well. So I like that. But I also like that Alice says later on in the episode, no, the answer to pretty much all of your questions is going to be, I was a former cop. That was really good. You want to know anything about me? The reason why I know this, the reason why I know how to find your house is because I was a former cop. That's going to answer most of your questions
Absolutely.
now. But she's the daughter of a rock singer called Lorna Wu, who was the actual person that was listed on Lilia's list that was provided, but Lorna Wu apparently was lost to the Witch's Road herself in the past. So the way they get Alice involved in this effectively is that she has been this legacy witch. She's been aware of her mother who sang the most famous version of the ballad, this song that we hear at the end. She's the one that sang it, released it into the world, but apparently died in the Witch's Road herself. So they appeal to the curiosity of Alice Wu Gulliver, because she's lived in the shadow of this song for her whole life. And I guess she wants to know whether Lorna, her mother, was on the right track, whether this ballad that she sang was true, was real.
Like, she's up front and says, I'm not convinced the road is real. In her mind, it's a cult. And the teen and Agatha coming that are part of that.
She calls them groupies because she thinks they're just fans of her mom's music.
Exactly. But I like the fact that the desperation here with Alice is almost, she's a bit, it's kind of rhino skin to some extent, but it's, she's kind of, again, flat out refuses. But you have Agatha just kind of lean into her to say, well, it'll help you find out what happened to Mummy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough, even though the teen doesn't give her the address that she needs to get to. She turns up having found the property because she is a former cop. So it's really good. I like that. I
wonder if Agatha will reveal to her her true crime aspirations when we saw in episode 1. Did I get it right in my vision, Alice? That would be interesting. One of the other things I really liked about these scenes with Alice, where the recruiter, is that she works for Hot Topic, which is well known as the place where all of the goths and all of the teens go in the mall to buy their clothes. Now, when we were kids, John, you remember when we had loads of goths around us, they would go and get stuff from high street shops and turn it into their goth look. Well, Hot Topic in the US is a place where you can now buy it on the high street. So very different, but I like that they had Alice working in there.
And I like that the teen says, I know I have a brand.
Absolutely.
As they're going through the aisles.
Have a certain style, but what the hell are we doing in Hot Topic? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So again, we have our third witch join the coven.
Yeah, and according to Agatha, we only need 3, even though there was 4 on the list. We're going to go on to our spell number 5, because there's some great moments in the final section of the episode. The song, Down, Down, Down the Road, Down the Witch's Road, is our final spell. As they all group together, Agatha's kind of going, well, that's it. That's all we need. We just need the 3 of you. Air, fire, and water are represented by the 3 witches that we've got here, but they're missing one of the biggest parts, Earth, the Green Witch.
Yes. The critical part, according to Jennifer, the need for Earth magic and the Green Witch, which was the last name that was written down by Lilia. But Agatha eats the list so that the teen doesn't know who it is that they should be looking for.
That's right, yeah.
So she's trying to hide the identity, I guess, to some degree, of the... So she's trying to hide the identity of this 4th witch required, and this crucial witch. But apparently the name was not a name. It was a picture of a black heart.
No, it was only black because she used a black pen. Right. So we can all agree that there's some definite obscuring here from Agatha, when she's definitely lying about who this 4th person is. The fact that she goes to find the Green Witch by going to, well, what we're calling Mrs. Hart, which isn't even her real name. Agatha's neighbor, played by Deborah Jo Rupp, who played a character in the first season of the show called Mrs. Hart. That's not her real name now. She's Mrs. Davies. That's her real name. But because she's a gardener who has green fingers...
green thumb.
And green thumbs, yes, she's going to be dragged in by Agatha to represent the Green Witch that they're looking for. So there's definitely some major questions over who this Black Heart could be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, poor Mrs. Hart, at least for the time being, is... absolutely ignorant to what she's getting into. She thinks she's going out for a night out with Agnes and her girlfriends, effectively. And this plays out so wonderfully comically as they begin to conjure the road through the ballad in the basement of Agatha's house. So, like, Mrs. Hart is not clear why they're down in the basement for a party.
Are we going to do some washing?
Exactly. Are we going to do some laundry? And then, of course, as they're talking about the harmonies and begin to sing, Mrs. Hart doesn't know the song or the words at all. But ultimately, as it builds and builds, and it gets really wonderfully sort of ballady, she kind of gets into the tune, so is kind of dancing and smiling, thinking that this is part of the party. I absolutely thought this was hilarious, so good.
Absolutely,
loved how it was portrayed.
There is a moment as she gets into the song where it sounds like she feels this is just a version of "Row, Row, Row Your Boat" that she hasn't heard before. Yeah. So you hear Mrs. Hart's voice going down, down, down the road. So she's definitely getting into it, even though she doesn't know what it is. Really enjoyed it.
And I think all the while as well, as the ballad kind kind of builds and builds and builds and becomes more layered with the sound of the four witches' voices. I love the fact that it's building the tension around Conjuring the Road, but also at the same time, you have the Salem 7 approaching Agatha's house, the teen trying to barricade the walls, but the effect of these 7 Salem witches really is very cool. And I like how that just kind of draws the attention throughout this whole bit. It's such a great ending and kind of crescendo to this episode.
Absolutely.
I really, really, really love it. And once they finish, the Salem 7 are coming in further. You've kind of got the teen saying, we need to go. The conjuring of the route to the road doesn't seem to be coming through. And Agatha is, well, this didn't take this long back in the day. But again, a little bit of trickery here from Agatha, which is kind of interesting in that I'm guessing she never intended for the road to be conjured.
Yeah.
Because she has a go at all the other witches, saying like how they're cowards, frauds, disappointments, kind of second-class witches, in order to provoke them into casting a spell at her in order that she can then steal the power. And they realize this.
Yes.
But as this is playing out, a hexagonal door appears on the floor of the basement in Agatha's house. And I like this because I think earlier on they talk about how it needs to be a real coven that can, or it's only a real coven that can conjure the Witch's Road.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, through the bickering and through this kind of I guess bonding, in that they're all desperate, they have become, it's that unlikely team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or in part, it's the unlikely team going against, that shouldn't work, working.
Absolutely.
Like the Goonies, in effect.
Yeah, and I'll say for Agatha, I think that this was her second plan. I don't think her plan was that they wouldn't be able to open the Witch's Road. I think her plan was, if we can't, I'm going to steal all their power and go up against Salem 7 because I could do that. That's my secondary plan. But if it works, we'll go onto the Witch's Road and I'll get my power. So Agatha, being the power grabber that she is, I feel like she was kind of going, right, we'll do this.
Yeah, plan B.
But that could explain why she didn't want to add the Green Witch that she needed to have. She could have been going, right, if I don't add the Green Witch, then I'll just steal all the power of these 3 right here. Maybe the Green Witch was too powerful and she felt like she couldn't overcome her. So maybe you're right. Maybe her full plan was to take the power of these 3 witches, not include the Green Witch, so that the spell wouldn't work and take all their powers. So maybe that was it. Interesting idea. And I guess we'll understand as the episodes go on. We'll understand who this Green Witch that was supposed to be in the coven and hasn't arrived is, because Mrs. Hart is totally lost in this group. She has no idea what she's doing here. She shouldn't be here. She just has green thumbs, not a witchy bone in sight within her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but they do get onto the Witch's Road. They get down. It does feel a little Wizard of Oz-like, I guess. Next episode will be following the Purple Brick Road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There is a sense here of the yellow brick road that's purple. Interestingly, taking their shoes off as well, because that kind of intensified it a bit for me, just because the shoes of the Wicked Witch of the West are so central in the Wizard of Oz. I'm like, are they taking them off just in case?
In case they happen to meet Dorothy on the road. Is that it?
Yeah, that they took their shoes off. Yeah. And I'm hoping they kind of explain that, because I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
But it made me immediately think, well, we can't die with our shoes on, kind of thing, like the Wicked Witch of the West in Wizard of Oz. But
it's like locking up your bike. It's like, oh, don't go down the road because you might meet Dorothy and she might steal your shoes.
Yeah, exactly. But I like how they do all get into the staircase in before the Salem 7 can strike, or at least strike Agatha. And I like the fact that there are touches throughout this episode. So the Salem 7 all have an animal associated with them, and
yes, we learned this from the credits because
Yes,
they're all
exactly.
given names in the credits. We don't get it through the episode, but throughout the episode we do see animals that are watching on
Exactly.
for Agatha. She's seeing them every time,
and the music
yeah.
changes to quite ominous music. So we see rat, coyote, and crow in
Yes.
this episode,
Yeah.
and that's where the mood changes as Agatha sees them and kind of immediately is moving on rapidly, getting out of there.
Yeah.
But there's also the snake, the fox, the owl, and then Vertigo, which I guess isn't an animal, but that was the most interesting one.
Well, yes, we have no idea who these characters are. We have no idea what the connection is. These are how they're named in the credits. Vertigo is the first name that comes up, so I'm presuming that's the leader of the Salem 7. I absolutely loved how they appeared on screen, where we saw one in the street, and Herb, the neighbor, is looking at going, "Are you seeing this as well?" So this isn't something that's hidden from
Absolutely.
the members of Westview, the people in Westview. He sees it and is terrified by it. But I love that you see the one and then it becomes the 7. They just spread out from behind each other. Very cool. Very Hydra-like for me, but very cool. Really enjoyed that. So we're off on the road.
Absolutely.
Down on the road, on the Witch's Road.
Really looking forward to seeing this coven down there and Mrs. Hart.
Yeah.
And the teen, in fact.
Absolutely.
Down on this Witch's Road, just to see what happens down there for sure.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about it in our notes section really quickly about the Black Heart that's mentioned. A little theory that we have before the episodes come out. So this theory might be repeated by hundreds of other people on YouTube or people on Twitter or wherever else you're getting your theories from. But Black Heart is a character in Marvel Comics. There's a character called Black Heart.
Yeah.
It's a demon created by Mephisto. So I wonder... Is the showrunner Jack Schaefer leaning into all the theorizing that happened in season 1 about whether Mephisto was going to appear in
exactly.
WandaVision? It was a theory that was going around for weeks and drove all the people who were theorizing about it insane by the end of the season when there was no Mephisto. Everybody was thought to be Mephisto, from Senior Scratchy to Wanda's brother Pietro appearing. He was supposed to be Mephisto. It could be anybody that's Mephisto. Maybe Agatha's Mephisto. Maybe Wanda's Mephisto herself. And this time they've mentioned a character called Blackheart, who is a demon created by Mephisto. So I think they're just leaning into it.
Yeah, I definitely, I think so too. But there is that Mephisto theory connection, whether it is or it isn't, who knows? But either way, it's a really nice little touch, I think, from the writing and the showrunner, I'm guessing. Or indeed, should it be Senior Scratchy, the rabbit? Is that the Green Witch? Just because we have the teen holding Mr. Senor Scratchy.
Yes.
You just wonder, is that why Agatha is absolutely trying to avoid bringing the Green Witch?
Yeah, is it that she's already had a battle against the Green Witch, and maybe again she has changed him into the rabbit that she's been carrying around?
Yeah.
We saw him in episode 1, we saw him in episode 2. I know it's a cute rabbit, don't get me wrong. You would put the rabbit on screen as often as you possibly can, but just odd that he's been around all the time throughout season 1. Didn't turn out to be anything big. So as a showrunner and head writer like Jack Schaefer, do you go, I'm going to write him into being something big for second season, And do we pay off what the fans wanted in the first season and go, Senior Scratchy is actually the Green Witch, or is actually Mephisto turned into a rabbit? Hey, look, the theories start here.
Exactly. I think one other quick note, just the Wizard of Oz reference, is that Agatha does call the teen, because she doesn't know his name, Toto.
Yes, she does.
At one point,
Yep.
her dog. So, again, another little reference there to Wizard of Oz. And we do have Agatha seeing the sort of foundations and remains of Wanda's house, which she has a little spit on, and of course there's a ton of graffiti as well.
Yeah, I noticed the graffiti because I thought that was really interesting, that there was lots of people that were obviously very angry in Westview about what had happened to them. We hear mention that nobody in town wants to even say the name Wanda anymore. Agatha says they're all scared of that, but given the trauma that they've all gone through and are still living in this town as well, they don't want to even mention her name. So the foundations of the house that she had built there in her mind or with her powers, they're now all graffitied by the people in Westfield. That was really interesting to have that touch in there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Really good little touch. Any more notes, Derek?
Nothing else from me. So, John, do you defend Agatha All Along, Episode 2, Circle Sown with Fate, Unlock Thy Hidden Gate?
I really do defend this. I really enjoyed this episode, and I'm enjoying Agatha All Along at the moment. I'd give this 4.5 lapsed expiration dates out of 5. It's the snack food. Derek was looking at me quizzically. It was the snack food that the team could conjure up, of which only Lilia was brave enough to sort of gobble down.
Look, I don't mind expired food. It's absolutely fine.
Exactly. And I kind of did like the way that the team was trying to make this almost like a sort of, I don't know, it was, I guess, a witch's coven circle, it's like knitting circle, crocheting.
He was trying to make it a party, though. He had his welcome sign up on the wall to welcome in the coven. This is his dream. He's been researching this for years, and here's his opportunity to join a real coven.
Exactly.
It's cool for him. Yeah.
But I loved this episode. I loved that it was the bringing the team together that I really hope we're going to be with for the rest of this show, because I loved each and every one of these witches. And dare I say it, the possible suspicious witch in Mrs. Hart, is she, isn't she?
Do you have any idea what's going on?
Or is she just going to be absolutely fantastic as she was in this? Loved the comedy thread through this entire episode.
Absolutely.
Really good.
Is she Agatha All Along's Scarecrow, the character without a brain, the one that doesn't know what's going on?
Yeah, well, that is true.
Maybe that's it. Good stuff. I absolutely defend this episode. I thought that was just so much fun. Get your gang together and putting these 2 episodes together back to back. Your little call back to WandaVision in episode 1. Kick off the idea of getting to the Witch's Road, and then here in episode 2 getting the gang together and starting the Witch's Road. Perfect way to kick off this adventure for Agatha Harkness. So we'll see how it goes in episode 3, but I thought the 2 episodes coming out together worked really well, and now this excellent cast that's surrounding Agatha Harkness seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. A great song as well, so let's hope the music keeps going as well as this for the rest of the season.
Well, that's it, absolutely. And I mean, again, just the other kind of link to Wizard of Oz here is that, Agatha calls out the 3 as a coward, a fraud, a disappointment, which is very similar to the Lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow.
I thought you were going to go Lion Witch in the Wardrobe, but you were right.
Plus the teen as Toto.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, off we go to the land of the friends of Dorothy, John.
Yeah, indeed we do. Excellent stuff. But our next thing is the Agatha All Along Cauldron quiz.
Absolutely. Let's go to our Coven Cauldron quiz. John, have you got our second question in the Coven Cauldron quiz for this week?
Do. Fellow quizzers, fellow defenders, question 2. How would a payment to the psychic Lilia appear on your bank account?
Yes, have a check. She does tell you what it is. John, do you want to give the question one more time?
Yes. How would a payment to the psychic Lilia appear on your bank account?
Excellent. That's the second question in 9. Get your answers in at the end of the season to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com. And if you have all the questions right, you could be in with a chance of getting your hands on some Agatha Harkness goodies at the end of the season. That is also the place you send any feedback into us. We love to hear your thoughts on Agatha All Along. So far, email us there. You can email us a voicemail up to 2 minutes and we will play it on the podcast if you want to do it that way. Or you can pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries. There's a spoiler post up there for every episode of Agatha All Along.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, fellow defenders, please subscribe to the podcast over at tvpodcastindustries.com. And remember to share as well, because of course, sharing the podcast is sharing the love.
Yes,
the
it
witchy love.
Yes,
indeed.
it is. Absolutely. We'll be back next week with Agatha All Along, episode 3, which airs on 25th September on Disney+. See you later, witches.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, fellow defenders, as always. Until episode 3, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep defending.
Bye.
Bye.